Stocks go down for a couple days in a row as we look into what the markets hold in the future. Wisconsin opens itself back up and California flips a seat from blue to red. Plus, Senator Rand Paul puts out a notice asking to see what Biden knew and what the president possibly knew and will possibly be interviewing Grinnell in the near future. Plus, we'll go through a thing I like and a thing that I hate. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everybody. Man, sometimes you just don't sleep at night and then you can't get back up in the morning and things run just a little bit behind and then your hair kind of flips up at the end of the day too. So, I'm Jay Edgar and this is Contemporary. We got a ton to get to today, but some of it I think is going to be a little bit of quick hitter, so we'll get through it all. It'll be good. It'll all be done. So, before we get started though, before we get started, I can't talk, I guess. Before we get started, let's head, where's my transition? There it is. Before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We have got the news feed up here today, and I decided I'd actually show you guys the website so you see what's going on here. And of course, we've got Contemporary, the R-rated conservative, the generational gap. We've got Freckles and Britt. We've got Wyatt Birkenhoff. We've got Stephen Ignoramus all the way down here. It looks like he might be on a little bit of hiatus here. But we've got all kinds of creators over there from all sorts of different walks of life and all sorts of different political perspectives. So go and check us out over there. We'd love to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary. And all of your merchandise as well. All right, we are going to get started today, as usual, with Investors Business Daily and have a look at what's going on with the stocks. So, from Ed Carson, Dow Jones futures signal another coronavirus stock market rally sick day amid heavy jobless claims. Dow Jones futures fell sharply early Thursday along with S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq futures as initial jobless claims came in heavy again. The coronavirus stock market rally pulled back for a second straight session on Wednesday as Fed Chief Jerome Powell said he sees significant downside risks and an uncertain path of the coronavirus recovery. The major indices and leading stocks pared losses significantly into the close. Initial jobless claims came in at 2.98 million in the Labor Department reported, or roughly 36.5 million since the crisis began. Economists had expected another 2.5 million people would file for unemployment benefits. However, continuing claims only rose slightly to 22.833 million below expectations. So that's good news, of course, because people are getting off of unemployment, so the continuing claims are starting to go away. So far, the coronavirus stock market rally, especially the Nasdaq and leading stocks, hasn't shown too much damage, but further losses would be more concerning. Investors should adopt a more cautious stance, still keeping an eye out for potential buys if the rally revs higher again. The pullback is offering a chance for some stocks to take a breather. Apple, Facebook, Alphabet, Tesla, ServiceNow are working on possible handles. None of these names, with the exception of Tesla stock, has an actual handle yet, and having a handle isn't a green light to buy. Apple stock and ServiceNow stock are IBD leaderboard. Apple, Facebook stock, and Google stock were all blue dot specials on Wednesday. Those are stocks with superior relative strength, but still in bases. Meanwhile, Cisco reported better than expected earnings late Wednesday. While Cisco stock has been laggard for some time, the networking giant still provides insight into business IT spending. Also, MasterCard said it's starting to see normalization starting in consumer spending in recent weeks. MasterCard stock rose overnight but turned lower as futures faded. Arch rival Visa and digital payments leader PayPal retreated slightly. Early Thursday, website design software maker Wix reported strong earnings and guidance. Wix stock surged before the open after breaking out earlier this week. Futures fell 1.4% on the Dow versus fair value, extending losses after the jobless claims data. S&P futures sank 1.1%. Nasdaq 100 futures were down 0.9%. Cisco stock, a Dow Jones, S&P 500, and Nasdaq component, gave a modest lift, though it has far less weight than the fellow triple threat Apple stock. Dow Jones futures remain prone to big overnight moves, even if massive whipsaw action is less common. Crude oil futures rallied as the International Energy Agency said crude oil demand is falling less than previously feared. Good, because we were out of places to store it. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading on the next regular stock market session. That's certainly been true the past 2 days. Yeah, it's been a little bit wild. I think since I'm starting to do the visual aid for this, we'll actually start looking at the charts and see what it did the day before. But yeah, it's we've been going down a little bit here, and just on the longer term, I saw that we're maybe down 800 points as well. Well, definitely not what we saw when we dropped 10,000 in a couple days, but 800 points is not significant. But we've got good news on that front, I think, and we'll talk a bit later about people maybe not being unemployed anymore. All right, the next one up here from CNBC. What to watch today? Dow to drop after 4.5% three-session losing streak. This is from Matthew J. Belvedere and Peter Shacknow. Dow futures were pointing to a sharp decline at Thursday's open after more than 2.98 million more Americans filed initial jobless claims last week. Thursday's level of claims, while still historically off the charts, continues a slowdown in the pace of filings in recent weeks. The latest 8 weeks of data shows nearly 36.5 million claims. Oh, the NBC networks love that number. The Dow Jones Industrial Average's 2.2% decline Wednesday extended blue chips' losing streak to over 4.5% over the past three sessions. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq were down for the past 2 days. Wednesday's over 1.5% drop sent the outperforming Nasdaq back to negative territory for the year. The fuel for Thursday's hangover and Wednesday's tough day on Wall Street was downbeat remarks from Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. He said, "More needs to be done to support the economy during the coronavirus crisis." However, Powell did add that U.S. growth should see a substantial recovery once the outbreak is brought under control. Shares in Dow stock Cisco were higher in the pre-market after the networking equipment maker and WebEx video conferencing operator reported adjusted quarterly profit of 79 cents per share, exceeding estimates by 10 cents. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that's only if you have one share, apparently. Revenue beat as well. Cisco also gave an upbeat current quarter forecasts as it benefits from an increase in remote work. Allogene Therapeutics shares were surging about 20% in the pre-market after clinical stage immuno-oncology company released favorable data from a phase 1 study of its treatment for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So, hey, they're actually researching diseases other than the COVID. Wow, maybe medicine is going to get back to normal. Let's read on. Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman Richard Burr turned over his cell phone to FBI agents in response to a search warrant served on him as part of a federal investigation of stock sales he made early in the coronavirus outbreak, NBC News confirmed on Thursday. The North Carolina Republican said he made the decision to sell based on public information and not on anything he learned in his role as a senator. And we'll find out in a hurry whether or not that was true, but of course, it's just Burr and not Dianne Feinstein who was doing the same thing. Wouldn't mind seeing her have to answer for that, but hey, pick on the white Republican and let the black Democrat go free. Apparently, Tesla's head of human resources warned the company's California employees that if they're called back to work but choose to stay home due to COVID-19 concerns, that they could lose unemployment benefits. Yeah, they never passed the law on that, and I'm actually a little bit surprised that California didn't put a law in place for that, but I know they were circulating it through the House and Senate to have protections for people who chose not to go to work due to COVID concerns, because otherwise they wouldn't get unemployment. I think that's a valid reason. That's an extenuating circumstance. Under any other circumstance, you turn down a job and you don't get paid, but because the media is sticking that needle right into your arm on fear porn, it's probably not the worst thing if some of these people don't go back to work. I bet it would save on lawsuits. CEO Elon Musk reopened the company's main U.S. car plant in Fremont, California this weekend in defiance of county health orders. Amazon is again extending wage increases and double overtime pay for its workers through May 30th, but both policies will come to an end in June. While keeping up hazard pay, Amazon continues to face criticism for its decision to end its unlimited unpaid time off policy. A company spokesperson said Amazon continues to provide flexibility for employees with its leave of absence option. And I almost put that into a thing that I hated today because they were saying rip capitalism on Twitter last night. That was the trending hashtag that was going around because it looks like Bezos is set to become the world's first trillionaire. But I want to read a little bit more into that before I officially say where I stand on that. So I want to know a bit more about what's going on. All right. So we're going to start off the news today with a tweet before we look into what this new stimulus package is going to be. So from everybody's favorite Somali House Representative Ilhan Omar from over on Twitter, any relief package must make cash assistance universal and monthly, halt foreclosures and evictions, freeze all deportations, cancel student debt, pay for small business losses, bail out workers, not corporations. Here are some steps I've been taking to ensure this. And she actually went on I believe it is a 10-tweet thread that went along with this to try and justify what it is that she wants to do. But first thing that I always say, and they'll say Republicans pounce, but where is this money coming from? Where is all this money coming from? Because nobody's going to buy our bonds right now because nobody's got money to buy our bonds. Because this pandemic hit worldwide and everybody else shut down just the same time America did. But to look now at what she's talking about with stimuli, Democrat proposal includes new stimulus payments of up to $6,000 for families. This is from CNN from Tammy Lubai. House Democrats want to send Americans a second round of stimulus checks worth up to $6,000 per family as part of the $3 trillion coronavirus relief package they rolled out on Tuesday, the largest in history. Like the first round of payments approved by Congress in March, new proposal calls for giving $1,200 to those earning up to $7,500 a year and $2,400 to couples without dependents, making double that before phasing out, but it would be far more generous to many families with children, providing $1,200 per dependent, up to a maximum of 3 dependents. The earlier stimulus package, which is still in the process of being distributed, gave $500 for each qualifying child under 17. Americans may not see these new, more generous payments, however. Senate Republican leaders have already said the new bill is dead on arrival, arguing that another round of emergency funding is not yet needed as states begin to reopen. The Democratic bill would also extend the historic enhancement of unemployment benefits, including in the March legislation. It calls for continuing the weekly $600 federal payment through January instead of through July. It would also maintain benefits for self-employed independent contractors, gig workers, and certain people affected by the COVID through March instead of the end of December. Likewise, it would continue the additional 13 weeks of payments through March. Named the HEROES Act, the legislation would establish a $200 billion fund. Where's that money coming from? To provide hazard pay to essential workers who have remained on the job during the pandemic, a measure that was not included in the 4 prior relief packages. The House proposal would also fund more money into efforts that Congress has supported in previous legislation. In other words, it is loaded with pork upon pork upon pork. It would spend nearly $1 trillion to state and local, territorial, and tribal governments, which are facing big budget gaps as their tax revenues plummet amid the shutdowns of non-essential businesses and the loss of millions of jobs. And it would provide another $75 billion for coronavirus testing, contact tracing, and isolation measures. Plus, it calls for Americans who fall ill with coronavirus to get free treatment. What the fuck? Is your employer bringing you back to work? Are you ready to return? Are you receiving unemployment benefits? Tell us about it. Yeah, this is going to be a source of people that are panic-stricken to go back to work because they think that a positive diagnosis of COVID is a death sentence instantly. Democratic lawmakers also want to bolster the nation's safety net by increasing the maximum food stamp benefits by 15%, a provision they could not get into prior packages, and providing additional funding for nutrition programs for children. They would also allocate $175 billion to help renters and homeowners and offer subsidies to help Americans who lose their employer-provided health insurance to keep their coverage. And that's just what they're telling you. Kids, I started reading this bill. yesterday I started reading it, and it is big, which is why they're hoping that there was actually a question there. I probably should have brought it up at this point. Let me actually do that. Let's check that out. You guys are going to see what I search on YouTube, but we need to look at this because I want to answer this question. So, this is from Steel and Souls. You should visit Dave & Buster's at least once, though. They're pretty cool. Thanks for that. But the question here was, what's your take on changing congressional rules in one of two ways? First, by mandating that bills be read aloud before voting on them and penalizing legislators who insert unrelated materials into relief bills. And this is the perfect bill to look at this because of all the pork that they have in there. And I've looked into this. First off, they are going for the state and local tax repeal. They're definitely trying to get that in at this point because that definitely benefits the rich benefactors that they have in their blue state strongholds like New York and California. And of course, they're trying to stuff all kinds of other things in there, including vote by mail provisions and trying to take over the federal election and make it a federal election instead of 50 individual state elections, which is against the 10th Amendment and Article 1, Section 2. So they are trying to shove so much stuff in here that nobody's going to know what's going on and hope that people will try and sign off on it and not read it. They're going for broke on these relief packages and all the pork that's in there. And yes, I do think you're right. Every bill should be read aloud before it gets voted on, and that's going to shorten up a lot of these bills or definitely lose the attention span of some of the people that are going to vote on the Senate floor. And yes, there should be some sort of penalty, and I don't know how you would enforce that, but there needs to be some kind of penalty for putting this kind of pork into bills. So thank you for that question, Steel and Souls. All right, but yes, this is dead on arrival, especially given the fact that other things are happening here in the country. We'll talk about in just a bit. So next here, and we're gonna listen to some video. So let me get your headphones on here, but. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, these executive orders are not a suggestion. They're not optional. They're not helpful hints. Let's see what she has to say here.
Militia members are now pledging to Governor Whitmer, armed militia members are now pledging to block police from enforcing the closure of the Wasso barbershop that is open in defiance of the stay-at-home order. What are your thoughts on this and those doubting your authority to enforce these orders?
Thanks for the question. I first want to start by saying I know how frustrating this can be and tough this can be for people across our state, people that are self-isolating, people that are doing all of the right things and contributed to this decline that we've seen. I also know a lot of people that could use a haircut. You know, yours truly included, as well as my husband, frankly. But what matters most here is that we are on a trajectory where we have saved lives, where the most crucial thing is that business owners have customers who will come to them and employees that know it's safe to show up to work. What we need to do is continue what we have done. It's working. And for people that want to voice their frustration, that's fine. But I expect people to follow the law. These executive orders are not a suggestion. They're not optional. They're not helpful hints.
So that's what Whitmer has to say for this. And of course, this is getting more and more draconian as we move along here. Get your headphones off for a second. And we will look and move on over into what the Hill has to say on top of this here. Michigan suspends license of barber who vowed to keep his shop open until Jesus comes. This is from Zach Budrick over at the Hill. Michigan officials have suspended the license of a barber in the town of Wasso who said he would not close his doors until Jesus comes despite the state's stay-at-home order amid the coronavirus pandemic after a judge declined a state request to shut down Carl Mankey's shop Monday without a hearing. Lansing officials suspended his shop license and barber's license, the Associated Press reported. It is paramount that we take action to protect the public and do our part to help save lives, Attorney General Dana Nessel said. Mankey's attorney, Dave Kalman, called the move pure retribution. It's an abuse of power. How dare you stand up to me, he said. Under state law, Mankey can ask for immediate hearing at the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs with an administrative law judge, according to the Associated Press. Governor Gretchen Whitmer recently extended her order closing hair salons and barbershops, which was set to expire May 15th through at least May 28th. Mankey told the AP, the extension knocked me to my knees, and reopened his shop on May 4th. The government is not my mother, never has been, Mankey said Monday, according to the AP. I've been in business longer than they've been alive. Last week, Texas's Supreme Court ordered a Dallas area hair salon owner released from jail after she was detained for opening her business in defiance of a county level closure order. Numerous Texas Republicans rallied to her side, including Governor Greg Abbott, Representative Dan Crenshaw, and Senator Ted Cruz, who flew to Dallas for a haircut at the salon. So, yeah, this is definitely getting more punitive than it is for safety at this point. And I don't know what it is that Whitmer's thinking trying to keep up with this, but it is getting draconian. All right, now for the good news. We've heard all the bad news. Now it's time to take a look at all the good news. So, from CNN, of all places, Anderson Cooper. Wisconsin Supreme Court strikes down state stay-at-home order. This is from Omar Jimenez and Paul LeBlanc over at CNN. The Wisconsin Supreme Court has overturned the state stay-at-home order, ruling it unlawful, unenforceable, in a high-profile win for the state's Republican-led legislature. I have no words for that. This wasn't a win for the legislature. This was a win for the American people, but I can't believe that, well, I can believe that CNN can't see that, but in a 4-3 decision on Wednesday, the court ruled that Evers' administration overstepped its authority when State Department of Health Services extended the order to May 26th. The ruling comes after the legislature's Republican leaders filed a lawsuit last month arguing the order would cost Wisconsin residents their jobs and hurt many companies, asserting that if it was left in place, our state would be in shambles. The suit was filed specifically against State Department of Health Services Secretary-designee Andrea Palm and other health officials who made the decision in mid-April to extend the state's safer-at-home order. At the same time as the extension, the state loosened some restrictions on certain businesses, including golf courses, public libraries, and arts and crafts stores. But the justices wrote in their decision Wednesday that an agency cannot confer itself the power to dictate the laws, or the lives rather, of law-abiding individuals as comprehensively as the order does without reaching beyond the executive branch's authority. Evers, who had ordered Palm to issue the stay-at-home order in late March, told CNN's Don Lemon later Wednesday that the court's ruling puts our state in chaos. Of course it does. Now, we have no plan and no protections for the people of Wisconsin, Evers said. When you're going to have more people in a small place, I don't care if it's bars, restaurants, or your home, you're going to be able to spread the virus. And now, today, thanks to Republican legislators who convinced 4 Supreme Court justices to not look at the law, but look at their political careers, I guess, it's a bad day for Wisconsin. It's the Wild West, he said. And in a statement released separately Wednesday night, the governor encouraged people in his state to continue to stay safer at home, practice social distancing, and limit travel because, folks, deadly viruses don't wait around for politicians and bureaucrats to settle the differences or promulgate rules. Republican Assembly Speaker Robin Vos and Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald claimed in a joint statement after filing the lawsuit that there was immense frustration regarding the extension of the order and that Evers has denied the people a voice through the unprecedented administrative overreach. Unfortunately, that leaves the legislature no choice but to ask the Supreme Court to rein in his obvious abuse of power, they said. Wisconsinites deserve certainty, transparency, and a plan to end the constant stream of executive orders that are eroding both the economy and their liberty, even as the state is clearly seeing a decline in COVID infections. Wisconsin Democrats, however, have argued that the health crisis will only get worse if we end safer at home before it's safe to. President Donald Trump called the ruling a win for the state Thursday morning. The people want to get on with their lives. The place is bustling, he tweeted. His press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, however, struck a more cautious tone, urging Americans to continue social distancing and washing their hands, and noted the CDC recommendation to wear a face mask in public. So there are a lot of things to unpack in this article, but this is a win for the people. And first and foremost, the people that are afraid of getting sick do have the option to still stay home. That's not in question. You still have the freedom to do so. And I would love to see extensions on people's unemployment if, for health reasons, they can't go to work. I mean, my job gave me 2 weeks of vacation in case I get sick from COVID. Of course, part of that does come from the fact that they got the government loan. But yeah, I looked in on my timesheet when I got sick the other day to go actually put in for the time off for the day I got sick. I went to go take sick pay for that. And I noticed that there were just 2 weeks of COVID-related vacation time in there. So companies are doing the right thing off of this. And of course, I would encourage the legislatures at this point with the pandemic to put some sort of legislation in place to protect people who do want to stay home and not go back to work due to COVID concerns. Give them a little extra time to ease their minds. But for the rest of us who want to go back to work, we need to have places to go back to work too. And once again, like I said, I wasn't affected by it. I went to work every single day, but I know a lot of people were. So the bigger part of this, of course, is what they said was, let me see if I can find the quote back in here. Yeah, extensive and overreaching executive orders. And this is the point of it. The executive branch does not make laws, they enforce laws. And that has been a big thing that we've needed to remember in this country for a long time. People think that the president is going to make some law that's going to make abortion illegal and enforce it on everybody. Well, the president doesn't make laws, and neither does the governor. The legislature does. Now, in the case of an emergency, our Constitution and our state laws do give the governor certain powers to make a state of emergency until the legislature can convene and find a proper way to do it. But he's limited to 60 days, and May 26th extended beyond the 60 days. After 60 days, you have to have the legislature come together and make a law, and you have to work together to make that law happen. Otherwise, we would just be executive order after executive order after executive order. So this was the right decision as far as the state Supreme Court went. And I'd love to figure out which 3 were the dissenting votes against it. But yes, this was the absolute 100% correct decision in this. So now, if Evers wants to extend it further, now he has to court Fitzgerald and Voss and try and get a law made. But yeah, he has used up his power at this point. So, I'm looking forward to going and getting a meal at a restaurant and actually sitting down. And I know that there are going to be some places that are going to remain closed or remain distanced or remain to a point where they can't have so many people. And I respect that. That's their business. It's their property. It's their right to do so. All right. Next one here. We're going to move into a little bit more on the federal side of this. Trump's rebuke of Fauci encapsulates the rejection of science in the virus fight. Rejection of science. Scary language. This is from Stephen Collinson over at CNN. President Donald Trump's repudiation of Dr. Anthony Fauci has long been probable once the trusted doctor warned of the human cost of Trump's push to quickly reopen the country became inevitable. Trump broke with Fauci, who had served under 6 presidents on Wednesday, over the infectious disease experts' warnings that getting businesses and schools back open too quickly would lead to unnecessary suffering and death. I was surprised by his answer, actually, Trump said. It's just, to me, it's not an acceptable answer, especially when it comes to schools. The delicate dynamic between Fauci and Trump has been watched for months. Its latest fraying marks the most pronounced clash yet in the tussle between science and politics that has long plagued the administration's fight against the coronavirus. Ooh, evil anti-science. Science! Fauci's transgression is to base his evaluations after decades of public service and expertise fighting HIV, AIDS, Ebola, Zika, and anthrax on facts and logic that conflicts with Trump's chosen version. Jesus. Okay, a couple more cracks like that and I can't read this article anymore because this is an opinion piece. Fauci has long said that only the virus can decide when normal life, things such as NFL games and schools reopening, for instance, will be safe again. Once again, I don't predict that House Democrats are going to be too keen on the idea of not having that government-based indoctrination in the schools. They're going to want to shape that shit back up pretty quick. Trump has always been battling the pandemic he wants to fight rather than the one that actually exists. Okay, I'm done with this. This is just an opinion puff piece. So, essentially, yeah, Fauci and Trump got into another tussle. I don't know if he is still on the administration at this point, but we don't go to Fauci for a mandate or a law as to what we do with life. Fauci is a disease expert, and he tells us the facts that we need to know about the disease. And then we take those facts as American people, or they take those facts as administration officials or legislatures, if we're going over on that side, and use them to either craft our own lives or craft legislation to come together to find something that works for the most amount of people. We did not elect Dr. Fauci as the emperor of the country. I do value his expertise. I value what he has to say, and I do take some of what he says to heart as to what I do with the rest of my life. But he is not going to run my life or the country because he's an unelected official. We have legislators to do that and represent us to Congress. We are not an empire. As much as the left wants people to think that Donald Trump is an emperor, we are not an empire, and we are not ruled over by Emperor Trump or Emperor Fauci. So, and of course, now CNN is going to come out and try to make this sound as evil as humanly possible. There is no objectiveness over on that side. There's a reason I rarely use them as a source. From CBS News, Republican Mike Garcia wins California special election and flips House seat. Whereas yesterday we looked and he was 14 points ahead, he has officially won. It is official. From Aaron Navarro over at CNN. Republican veteran Mike Garcia held on to his lead in California's special election for the 25th Congressional District and will become the first Republican to flip a seat held by a Democrat in the state since 1998. Winning former Representative Katie Hill's seat, Garcia stopped short of a full-fledged victory speech on a call with supporters late Tuesday night, as results showed him ahead of the Democratic State Assemblywoman Christy Smith by double digits. But by Wednesday morning, Garcia was declaring victory. After seeing more results last night, it is clear that our message of lower taxes and ensuring we don't take liberal Sacramento dysfunction to Washington prevailed. He said in a statement, "For too long, the people of our district have not had representation, and it's time their voice is heard in Washington." On Wednesday afternoon, Smith officially conceded, and in a Facebook statement said, "While it's critical that all the remaining votes should be counted, the current tally shows Mike Garcia is a likely victor." Garcia's victory was a welcome sign for House Republicans, coming in a district Hillary Clinton won by 7 points in 2016, and in a race for a seat that had been held by a Democrat, Hill, who flipped the seat by 8 points from Republican to Democrat in the 2018 midterm elections, resigned in December 2019 after admitting to an affair with a campaign staffer. Wow, they actually admitted that's what it was, because I thought the accepted narrative at this point was the fact that Republicans pounce, and somebody leaked some news photos of her, and she couldn't go on anymore. A Navy fighter pilot who is the son of a Mexican immigrant, Garcia was viewed as an appealing candidate, a good outsider fit for Republicans in the district, as the pandemic swept across the country after he advanced through the March primaries, which Smith led. Garcia's campaign quickly adapted to the times, holding telethon town halls. In the final weeks of the campaign, national Democratic figures such as Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Senator Kamala Harris were lavishing their support of Smith through endorsements and social media pushes, while Smith has said she supports the Democratic presidential nominee, whether she nor Vice President Joe Biden have officially endorsed each other. Trump and national Republicans advocated for Garcia, particularly in the last weekend before Election Day, and they complained about the opening of a new in-person voting center in Lancaster, which they claimed could give Democrats an unfair edge. Dems are trying to steal the Mike Garcia congressional race in California. Republicans, get out and vote for your terrific candidate, your wonderful candidate, the best candidate, ASAP, Trump tweeted on Monday. And a lot of this we read yesterday, because a lot of this has not changed since yesterday. But yes, California has officially flipped a seat from blue to red. And we'll see what happens in November, because there are going to be a lot of people that are more energized to come out and vote come November. So it's going to change a lot of the dynamics. And there are going to be a lot of people that are energized to come out and vote against Trump. But we will see what happens off of that as we go along here. And congratulations to Mike Garcia. All right, next one. So this came to me from over on Seawall, who put this up on the pages of all the Freedom Scoop content contributors, but I wanted to read what we have here. Senator Rand Paul says, yesterday I wrote to the DNI requesting the names of those who were involved in Jen Flynn's unmasking. Today I received the shocking reply that Joe Biden and many others knew. What did President Obama know? I'm inviting DNI Grinnell to testify next week in the Senate. So, of course, when we can zoom in on this picture here and see that, I mean, I don't have the best screen for this, obviously, but there are a lot of names on there, and there's some stuff redacted, but, yeah, we've got Biden on here, who was involved with this, and, of course, Trump's name is on that. Vice President of the United States, Joseph R. Biden, at the very end. So, if Biden knew, that it's very, very likely that Trump knew, but, of course, nobody in the mainstream is covering any of this at all, because we've got Arbery to panic about, and we've got COVID to panic about. So a lot of people in America are not going to know a lot about this until the other shoe drops. So I'm kind of glad to see that going. All right, I got a couple more here. I'm going to move this. Hang on. So from the Daily Wire, Senator breaks down why the Obama administration's unmasking scandal is a big deal. This is from Daily Wire News. Homeland Security Committee Chairman Ron Johnson explained during a Wednesday night interview on Fox News why the latest unmasking revelation in the case of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn is a serious scandal for the Obama administration. Sorry, I lost my place there for a second. Well, in a FISA court surveillance operation, the U.S. government can only surveil foreign people associated with terrorists, Johnson began. When they're monitoring their cell phone calls, they will sometimes inadvertently pick up a conversation with somebody talking to an American citizen. When those transcripts are released, the identity of the American citizen is masked, Johnson said. And so there's a very limited number of people in the administration that can request those, or that those American citizens' names be unmasked because, again, those shouldn't. American citizens should not be captured in these foreign surveillance investigations. Right, but the left doesn't care about the Fourth Amendment. Unless they want to battle against some Southern District of New York court's decision to subpoena records from the president. That's another one that's going on there. And I got into an argument with somebody on Twitter over that. And it is, from my standpoint, pretty curious that the Vice President of the United States would be requesting unmasking in this case of General Flynn 8 days before he left office, Johnson continued. This is outrageous what the Obama administration and members of its high up in the administration were doing during the election towards the tail end of their administration, and the ones that were held over, what they did in the early days of the Trump administration as well. There's the transcript of it. And it looks like that is the end of the article there. But yeah, it is becoming more and more clear that both the right and the left, but especially the left right now, doesn't give a damn about the Fourth Amendment. Subpoena those records, even if we don't have a crime to go along with it. Just make sure you subpoena them, and we'll claim that the Southern District of New York wanted, hey, just unmask this American citizen who has Fourth Amendment rights. Just put his name out there, throw his name out there, and surveil him without due process or justifiable cause. We'll figure out the constitutionality of it later. Another one from the Daily Wire here. Mexico's president is looking into Obama's Fast and Furious illegal gun running scheme, requests info from the U.S. to go further along with everything else that went along here. This is from that scandal-free Obama administration. And this is also from Ryan Saavedra. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, also known as AMLO, has requested information from the U.S. government on former President Barack Obama's Fast and Furious illegal gun running scheme, where the Obama administration allegedly instructed gun store owners to break the law and sell firearms to suspected criminals. Obrador urged on Friday that the U.S. for the U.S. to shed light on a gun-running sting that caused bilateral friction under the Obama presidency, Reuters reported. Setting out to stop cross-border gun smuggling, the U.S. scheme allowed people to illegally buy arms in the United States and take them to Mexico so that the weapons could be tracked and lead law enforcement officials to drug cartel bosses. How could this be? Obrador said at the news conference. A government that invades in this way, that flagrantly violates the sovereignty of international laws. Obrador brought up the illegal gun running scheme, which was tied to the deaths of U.S. federal agents during the Obama administration. During a press conference while discussing the case of Genaro Garcia Luna, Mexico security minister from '06 to 12, who was arrested in the U.S. in December and charged with drug trafficking offenses. Reuters added, Roberta Jacobson, a former American ambassador to Mexico appointed under U.S. President Barack Obama, had suggested that both governments knew about possible corruption by Garcia Luna in an interview with Mexican magazine Proceso, published at the weekend. During the press conference, Obrador urged that the probe should cover all those who intervened during this period because, without a doubt, there was cooperation, and noted that criminal behavior could be uncovered from officials from both the Mexican and U.S. governments. And if CNN doesn't cover it, did it really happen? So this is great because, of course, we've been touting that every single second of the Trump presidency is a scandal, and he has one scandal after another, and he's up to 1 million scandals at this point, and the saintly Barack Obama went 8 years without having a single scandal, even though we know about things like Fast and Furious, and the fact that he was baiting out people to go and protest the police and he had the media in his back pocket, dragging out people to protest over simple local stories. It was not a scandal-free administration, and Mexico knows at this point. If Mexico is calling you corrupt, then you've got problems. So I would love to see the end of this investigation. I'm pretty sure this is going to get buried pretty quickly by something else, so nothing happens to the legacy of the Messiah, but we will see what happens out of this. All right, last one here from Yahoo News. In a court filing, FBI accidentally reveals the name of Saudi officials suspected directing support for 9/11 hijackers. This is from Michael Iskoff, Chief Investigative Correspondent of Yahoo News. The FBI inadvertently revealed one of the U.S. government's most sensitive secrets about the September 11th terror attacks, the identity of a mysterious Saudi embassy official in Washington who agents had suspected had directed crucial support to two of the al-Qaeda hijackers. The disclosure came in a new declaration filed in federal courts by a senior FBI official in response to a lawsuit brought by families of 9/11 victims that accuses the Saudi government of complicity in the terrorist attack. The declarations was filed last month but unsealed late last week, according to spokesman for the 9/11 victims' families. It represents a major breakthrough in the long-running case, providing for the first time an apparent confirmation that FBI agents investigating the attacks believed they had uncovered a link between the hijackers and the Saudi embassy in Washington. It's unclear just how strong the evidence is against former Saudi embassy official, but it's the subject of a sharp dispute within the FBI for years. But the disclosure, which a senior U.S. government official confirmed was made in error, seems likely to revive questions about the potential Saudis' links to the 9/11 plot. It also shines a light in the extraordinary efforts by Trump administration officials in recent months to prevent internal documents about the issue from ever becoming public. This shows there's a complete government cover-up of the Saudi involvement, said Brett Eagleson, a spokesman for the 9/11 families, whose father was killed in the attack. It demonstrates there was a hierarchy of command that's coming from the Saudi embassy to the Ministry of Islamic Affairs in Los Angeles to the hijackers. Still, Eagleson acknowledged he was flabbergasted by the Bureau's slip-up in identifying the Saudi embassy official in a public filing. Although Justice Department lawyers had last September notified lawyers for the 9/11 families of the official's identity, they had done so under a protective order that forbade the family members from publicly disclosing it. So, they're going to be government secrets forever, and I know we've got a few more years before some of this stuff starts to become public, but, I mean, once all of this stuff becomes public, we are going to start seeing some shit, but this was an accident, but of course it shows the incompetence of government, and these are the people that you want involved in your healthcare and every other aspect of your life, but they can't even do something simple like this. So, good job, FBI. I think it's time to start cleaning house over there at that point. Between the Flynn stuff and this, it's just time to start cleaning house. So, usually on Thursday I do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate, but because we just got freed from house arrest, I'm feeling really positive today. The ankle monitors can come off. We can come out and face the sun again, even though it's cloudy as hell right now and raining right now. But the ankle monitors are off. We can go out, enjoy our lives again, and start getting back to them. And the people that don't want to go out into them still have the choice to do so. So today, we're not going to do a thing I hate. We're going to do a positive. We're going to do two things that I like. So, thing that I like number one here is I've been getting into EDM a little bit again lately. I reached out to a person whose music I liked. His online name is Vector U, and asked him, of course, if I could use his music on the bonus content that I put out on the audio platform, which I just put out my guest host with the generational gap. I just put that out today, or last night I put that out, so it should be showing up on everybody's podcatcher today. Now, usually, and this is a hard thing to do with artists and politicians and commentators who are to the left of Hillary Clinton, or to the right rather of Hillary Clinton, usually have a hard time getting support from an artist, like a musician or a painter or something else like that. But I reached out to Vector U. I explained to him who I was, what I wanted to do, and how I wanted to do that. And I said, hey, you know what? I just want to use a selection of what you have here. I want to use that to open up my bonus content for the audio. Thinking, okay, he's going to find out who I am and he's just going to ditch me. But within the hour, he emailed me back and he said, as long as you put my YouTube channel in the description of what you're using, absolutely. And I cut it up and it sounds really good. I decided to use the Legend of Zelda Dark World theme for it. So you can hear that out on the podcatcher. And I will also most likely be putting out the audio version of our Liberty Party over on Freckles and Brit, and that'll also have that in the beginning. But yeah, Vector U is really cool. His music's kind of good. If you like some EDM, go over there and check him out. He does mostly covers of video game stuff, so go and check him out over there. It's really good stuff. He's a really cool guy, and I hope to maybe work with him a little bit more in the future. And thing that I like number two, Cassie Dillon from the Daily Wire put out a question over on Twitter the other day asking who was your favorite non-political Twitter account. And I thought about it because on Twitter, most everybody that I follow is political. There are just a small handful of non-political people that I do. But over on Instagram and a little bit over on YouTube as well, there are a lot of people that I follow that are non-political because I need the break. I definitely need the break from politics every once in a while. And I remembered somebody. I started getting into cosplay a little bit right before I started doing YouTube. I've never made anything and I've never cosplayed anything myself, but it's an art form that I'm very interested in. I'm very interested to see what people do. Before I started my YouTube channel, and I was following a bunch of different cosplay accounts, and one followed me. It was a girl that actually was kind of from the local area here. She's since moved out of the area, but she followed me, and I looked at her work, and I liked her stuff, and I mean, she stays out of the politics. I am 100% positive that her and I see politics from a completely different opposite lens. Let me rephrase that. I'm 95% positive that we see politics from the opposite lens. 95% positive that we have different political views, but I don't know because she stays completely out of it. And that is Triforce of Procrastination. And we're going to look at her Instagram page here. She's incredibly talented. And she makes all of her own stuff. And like I say, she also does Twitch gaming, which is a little bit of fun as well. Now, I've directed people to some Twitch gamers who I know that are on the same side as me, including Harvey McLeod, who's been on my show before, and Chris Lokes, who has also been on my show before. And we know where they stand politically. But to watch Cece, I have no idea where she is politically, and I don't care because I'm going there for my break. But, I mean, if you look at her stuff, she's really talented. She's cute, too. I'll give her that. But no politics, no nothing. She's my favorite non-political Twitter follow, and I really, really enjoy the work that she does with costuming, too. So if you're on Instagram, go check her out, Triforce_of_procrastination, and don't try and bring politics into it because it's a really, really nice and really good break for it. I'm kind of happy that I think she still follows me on Instagram. I'm not sure, but yeah, one of my favorite follows for sure. Definitely. All right, and that is going to wrap up the show for the day. We will be back here tomorrow with more news and to see what we have going on out here for the rest of the week and see if we suddenly have a spike of 1 million deaths in Wisconsin come out tomorrow. I doubt we're going to have that because, of course, we'll have a little bit of spike, but it'll come from the cases that were already contracted before the lockdown lifted. And yeah, I'm going to go out at some point. I want to get some fish fry because it has been too goddamn long. I need me some fish fry. I'm a Wisconsin boy. I need me some Friday night fish fry. So I'm going to get that tomorrow after we have the news and I do my work shift tomorrow. Join me tomorrow as we talk some more news. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.